Hey, welcome back to Growth Rising. Depending on if you've been here before or not, I'm Bird, and I know it's to me. I feel like it's been so long since I made an actual sit down and talk video, but I'm here now. It's just been a lot of stuff going on, a lot of changes, so just getting adjusted. But yeah, today I'm going to be talking about the northern and southern hemispheres and the birth chart. And basically, if you have a lot of planets in one or the other, what they may mean for you, or if you look at, your family and friends' birth chart, what it may mean for them. And then you can just see, how it matches up with their personality. So, the hemisphere, well, the horizontal axis, it basically divides the planet, well, the houses, the 1 through 6 and the 7 through 12. So the northern hemisphere is actually at the bottom and the southern hemisphere is actually at the top. And which I know, to me at first I was thinking it was the other way around, but if you actually look at it, you're seeing it going from house 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. So it's going starting, from going around the bottom instead of the top. So the northern hemisphere is basically, it consists of the first six houses, Aries through Virgo. And it will be different based on your specific chart, but just, with, going over the basic is just Aries through Virgo. And, looking at all of these houses, all of these signs, they're ruled by inner planets. There's Mars, Venus, Mercury rules two houses just within the northern hemisphere, and there's also the sun and the moon. So yeah, all of those planets are basically dominating the first portion, which is the northern hemisphere. And also with the northern hemisphere, um, there's a lot of dramatic physical growth because it does represent, the first half of life, well, of your life. And, like even from like 1 to 40, you're going to see a big difference in somebody, appearance, because we do like our most dramatic growth and changes within the, first years of our lives. Like if you look at 5-year old and a 10-year old, there's like a huge difference. But it's up, like, let's say you look at somebody who's 70 and 75, you may not notice as much of a difference. I don't know about anybody else, but going from age 70 to 75 is not as drastic as going from 5 to 10, or even 10 to 15, 15 to 20. All, it's just a lot of growth. And as we get older, that growth starts to get less dramatic, but the younger you are is definitely going to be more dramatic. Um, excuse me. And the northern hemisphere is the subjective portion, but also a lot of outward growth, like I was just saying earlier. Um, and if go to like Astro Seek or Astro Cafe, or just go to Google and type in calculate my birth chart or something like that, and it's going to give you a lot of different options. There's a lot of apps to download, but you can just type in your information and then you'll see your specific chart. And if you are looking at your chart, and if you're looking along the bottom, and aka the northern hemisphere, if you have a lot of planets there, that would just mean that you're more private and more subjective, to things. Um, which is not a bad thing. It's just that, for one, the fourth house, which is usually where the IC is, not all the time, um, but that's usually where the IC is, and that's like the most private point of your chart. And of course, it's in like the northern hemisphere, which is at the bottom, because this is the private sector of our lives. So, You just probably won't be the type of person who's like always, you know how you sometimes go to people and they'll just tell you everything about their business, or what's going on in their lives, or what's happening with their friends or certain family members. They're just those type of people who will just be very open. They're like an open book. That's not you. Like, that's not you at all. You'll be more of the, oh, you can't read the book by its cover, because it's not that you will never let anybody in. It's just that they're going to have to work to get to that point, because you're just not going to let everybody know, the most private parts of you, which is, not a bad thing. Not saying that if you are an open book, that's a bad thing either. But if you're a private person, cool. Um, so now the Southern Hemisphere, which is the upper half of the chart, this right here is consisted of the 7th through the 12th houses, which is Libra through Pisces, or whatever it is in your specific chart. And all of these signs, with the exception of Libra, are ruled by outer planets. So, Libra is also ruled by Venus. I mean, it is the first house of the first house of the Southern Hemisphere. But like going from Scorpio on, they're all ruled by outer planets. Even though Scorpio does have two rulers, Mars and Pluto. And of course Pluto is like the furthest out. But yeah, it has those two rulers. And what is it? Aquarius. Aquarius also have two rulers, but they're both outer planets. It's Capricorn and Uranus, so Aquarius just way out there. But yeah, so this portion of the chart is more of the objective portion. The part of the chart where it's like, this is just a fact. Like, the the glass broke when it hit the floor. That's just a fact. You can go back and watch the video or the camera from whenever the glass fell and it just broke then. Like, those are the facts, instead of saying, you know what, I feel like you were trying to be mean to this person when yada yada yada, and not necessarily. But anyway, let's keep going. The Southern Hemisphere also represents like the second half of life, where you're not doing as much of the outer growth, the physical growth. You're doing more inward growth. You might know, like, whenever you have been around somebody and they're like, you know what, when I turned this age, I just didn't care what people was thinking about me no more. I didn't care what people said about me no more. I didn't care about the little things as much as I used to. I know, especially whenever people enter into like a new decade, like 30 and on, like that's usually whenever, I hear people say, like, when they hit 30, 40, 50, like, you know what, I just realized that I can't really focus on what nobody else say about me, or I can't really focus on what they're always putting in these magazines, for to try to tell us what beauty is. I didn't want to focus on that no more, because there's more inward growth. And also in the second half of life, in that Southern Hemisphere, that's where you do a lot of maturing. I mean, some people may mature faster than others. We do know that. But the second half of life is where you do more maturing, because now you do actually have a lot of that life experience. So you actually, it's not just so much of you just thinking like, I think that this right here would, be the best decision, for me or for somebody else, just because of whatever reason that you're pulling out of the air. But now you've actually lived some life experience, so you actually know more of how certain things will affect you or the people around you. And if you have more planets in the Southern Hemisphere, you'll be more of a sociable person, more sociable, and more objective, and just a more mature person, which you might be that person who is, quicker to go out to, any, like, well, not any, but a lot of parties, or want to hang out every weekend or even during the weekdays, whatever floats your boat. But you might be that type of person more, which, like I was saying earlier, there's nothing wrong with it. And so most of your planets will be up top, from 7th to 12th houses. That's more of where your planets will be. And that's also based on which system you're using, because Placidus, well, yeah, it'll still be like more from 7th to 12th houses. It's just that I know I was gonna say that with Placidus, the houses are not always even. Like equal house system and whole house system, they're gonna be pretty much having the houses equal, and it's gonna be I don't want to say clean cut, because Placidus is not messy. It's just that some people don't understand it. I know it took me a little minute to understand it, but anyway. So if you have most of your planets in 7th through 12 houses, 7th through the 12th houses, then you'll be more of that social butterfly, which is also kind of cool. Um, so yeah, remember you can go even Google calculate my birth chart, and then there you'll have, you'll just type in the place where you were born, your birthday, of course, and the time of your birth, and that'll give you everything you need to know. Your rising sign, I mean, you already know your sun sign. It'll give you your Venus and everything else, and lets you know where these planets are, so that you can see if it matches up with you also. And I will admit, some people, they will have more of a splash in their charts, which is basically like the planets are just everywhere. But that's not super common. Because a lot of times, like, there are certain things that will always travel close together, like the sun, Mercury, and Venus. They're usually not too far away from one another. Like, you're not going to have the sun in Capricorn and then your Mercury in Cancer. That's too far for Mercury and the sun to be. So they're usually going to be close together. But yeah, so look at your birth chart. And if you see more of the planets at the bottom, which is the northern hemisphere, you may be more of a private, kept to yourself person. They'll have to get to know you before they get to know more things about you. And if you're more of if you have more planets in the upper hemisphere, well, the upper part, which is the southern hemisphere, you may be more of a social butterfly. And also, in the southern hemisphere is where the midheaven is, and that is like that's like the highest point of your chart, and that's the most seen part. So that also lets you know kind of a bit more about why. Well, I'm not going to say why, but kind of how these play hand in hand. The IC and the MC, the the private part and the social part. But if you have any questions or concerns, or just wanted to let me know something new, go ahead and leave a comment down below. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and I hope that you all have a good day. Bye.